Okay, that was the first little time. Then he went, Donald Trump, yeah, Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump.
The New York Times did a comprehensive analysis of Donald Trump's public appearances and how they have deteriorated and morphed over time. They found this, quote, signs of change since Trump first took the political stage in 2015. Quote, he has always been discursive and has often been untethered to truth, but with the passage of time, his speeches have grown darker, harsher, longer, angrier, less focused, more profane, and increasingly fixated on the past.
We will be a country of generosity and warmth, but we will also be a country of law and order. We have to let the police do their job, and if they have to be extraordinarily rough. Now, if you had one really violent day, one rough hour, and I mean real rough, we will renegotiate NAFTA, stand up to China, and stop the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership. Not teaching woke is a very big factor, but we'll have a very small staff. You're in the boat, and you have this tremendously powerful battery, and the battery's now underwater, and there's a shark.
The evidence shows the shift, but whether people are seeing this is a separate question. Trump himself holding many fewer rallies than his first campaign. You can see the comparison there. It is a huge change and suggests even Trump's hardcore fans who would show up for a rally are less likely to see him in this condition.
We compare people to their own baseline, right? So here's someone who started out being very articulate, having a sophisticated vocabulary, being able to complete sentences, actually in polished paragraphs. Now he's an impoverished vocabulary, and he can't complete a sentence or a thought. Okay, he goes off on these actually tangential, we call this tangential thinking, when somebody just goes from one irrelevant sort of association to another, and then he kind of tries to tie it together in some kind of confabulated story sometimes. So, for example, that very confusing rant about how the U.S. Gerald Ford was an aircraft carrier, but they stopped using the John Deere hydraulics. They want to use magnets, but that's crazy because magnets dissolve in water. The whole thing doesn't make sense. None. It's word salad. It's nonsensical, right? No one could explain to you what that meant. This is the kind of real breakdown in the capacity to think and use language that that are formal diagnostic properties for someone who's experiencing dementia.
Something seriously has been wrong with Donald Trump before 2020, before 2019. Something has been seriously wrong with Donald Trump since he's been on the scene.
I think Donald Trump is an artful liar. I think he is a greedy, vicious, and arrogant man.
Well, I don't know, is that supposed to be a compliment or not? I'm not sure.
He's a spoiled, rich white brat who believes the world revolves around him. White supremacy at its highest. And that is not to say that all white people are who Donald Trump is. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is the sickness of Donald Trump did not just begin with his political career. To do and say such a thing is to discount all the harm that he's caused to so many people, both in business and also his personal life. Donald Trump has been a dastardly soul since day one. Since day one. Even politically, he has always rambled and said things that were fantastically fanciful. We know this. He's a liar. No one should pretend anything otherwise. It is absolutely ridiculous for us to act as if this is a new Donald Trump. And New York Times does not do us a service by pretending that this is a new Donald Trump, as if he's got completely worse. He's always been this evil bastard, screaming and wanting power at all costs. This is a man who would throw Jesus, Buddha, King, and the Dalai Lama under the bus just to get a handshake or a picture. This is a man who has no friends except for himself, because nobody is safe if Donald Trump has their back. We don't need to pretend that his speeches, as raggedy as they are the sign to let us know that something is missing for Donald Trump, that there's a deficit in this soul. We know. We know.
Not do any more questions. Let's just listen to music. Let's make it into a music. Who the hell wants to hear questions, right? Get that song done.
Okay.
Get that song ready,
Got
and
that
when
song
we leave,
pulled
we're
up?
going to have a beautiful... You could just sit. By the way, when we leave, you don't have to go so fast. You could sit and listen. We'll play a couple of songs. Some of you will be a little warm, but that's okay. It's not a bad thing. And if you want, we're going to do that, but I think it would be beautiful. Don't you think? A little different.
This is an odd closing argument, to say the least, from former President Trump, and not just the bizarre swaying on stage the other night. This is undemocratic stuff, and yet so few in his party are willing to speak out against it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that Donald Trump says he doesn't drink, but this feels like drunken behavior. I think he's probably microdosing, like his friend Elon Musk. It's astonishing behavior, and it's irrational. And if we're exhausted about this campaign, imagine how Donald Trump is feeling.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And is Donald Trump microdosing? I know it sounds insane, but after his recent town hall, you really have to wonder. The Daily Beast's Joanna Coles went on Morning Joe and said he's probably microdosing like his dark MAGA buddy, Elon Musk.
Though no evidence the former president is microdosing or using any sort of drugs, the events of this week, the dancing the other night, his speech in front of the Economic Club, certainly raising questions about his fitness for office again, the questions that President Biden had to face, now renewed on Donald Trump.
We're looking at a guy who's so out of touch, so lost in his own echo chamber, that his own supporters are starting to look twice. Picture this: Donald Trump supposedly vying to lead America in the most important election of our lives doesn't even bother with the issues. He's closing out this rally, and instead of answering real questions from people who actually showed up hoping to hear something useful, he asked for YMCA to play. Yes, YMCA. Like it's some kind of bizarre personal karaoke night instead of a political event. It's astonishing behavior from someone who thinks that he deserves to run this country again. And the GOP? They're silent. Jonathan Lemire from Morning Joe even called it undemocratic, because here's Trump swaying around the stage like he's auditioning for the lead role in Delusion, and no one in his circle has the guts to tell him that he looks ridiculous. And Trump's trying to play the hero as well. He wants credit for overturning Roe v. Wade, claiming that legal scholars wanted it gone, as if that makes it a noble cause. Here's the truth. The overwhelming majority of legal experts knew that overturning Roe would lead to chaos, suffering, and a massive setback in women's rights. He's not a hero, he's a villain. And every time he tries to dress up this reckless power grab as some kind of noble act, he's just insulting the intelligence of the American people. He didn't rescue anyone. All he did was throw millions of women back into a world of fear, with the government controlling their bodies. But to him, this is a victory worth celebrating. And let's talk about his loyal sidekick, J.D. Vance. Vance is right there in the mix, doing his own version of Trump's dance of denial. Remember when he was asked if Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? A yes or no question. And he acted like he'd just been handed a grenade. He stammered, he dodged, he did everything but tell the truth. Because let's face it, Vance would rather protect Trump's ego than respect reality. And that's not just sad, it's dangerous. If Vance can't acknowledge basic facts, then what can we expect from him if he's actually in power? And here's what Trump and Vance want to keep you from seeing. Project 2025. This isn't just another policy document. It's the GOP's full-fledged plan to reshape America in a way that most people would reject if they knew the truth. Project 2025 is a roadmap for gutting health care, slashing worker protections, and tearing down environmental safeguards. And while Trump's up there stumbling around to YMCA, his allies are planning to undo everything that keeps American society functioning. Take health care, for example. Millions of Americans, especially in rural areas, rely on affordable health care protections. Protections that Project 2025 is ready to eliminate. We're talking about people with pre-existing conditions who will lose coverage, skyrocketing health care costs, and fewer options for the people who need care the most. Meanwhile, Trump's putting on a performance to keep people distracted, hoping they won't notice the devastation that his policies would bring. And what about worker protections? The safeguards that guarantee fair wages, safe working conditions, and a voice for employees. Project 2025 targets all of it. They're talking about rolling back these protections to hand more power to corporations while leaving the average worker with nothing. This isn't Trump fighting for the little guy. This is Trump putting the little guy on the chopping block and pretending that it's for their own good. And then we have the environment. Right now, as climate change is creating unprecedented heat waves, wildfires, and floods, Project 2025 wants to gut the environmental policies that protect our air, our water, and our communities. It's a profit-first strategy that sacrifices long-term safety for immediate corporate gains. While Trump is up there stumbling through his tough talk, his allies are plotting to wreck our planet's future for a quick buck. And they're counting on the spectacle to keep you from noticing. They want you to get swept up in the show, to think of Trump as some untouchable hero standing up for the American values. But it's all an act. Trump wants to distract you with music and bluster while his allies prepare to turn this country upside down. His diaper dance isn't just bizarre. It's a smokescreen to keep you from seeing the real agenda that they're pushing. They'd rather have you entertained than informed. And they're betting that as long as Trump keeps putting on a show, you won't dig into what Project 2025 actually entails. And let's be clear, this isn't leadership. This is a desperate attempt to hide the truth behind theatrics. Real leaders answer tough questions. They face challenges head on. Trump and Vance, they dodge, they perform, and they keep you looking the other way while their party prepares to tear apart the protections Americans rely on. They're trying to pull off the ultimate bait and switch, banking on the hope that you'll cheer for the circus while they burn down the tent. This November, we need to remember what's on the line here.